So I work with StopWaste. We're hosting the event today, and we are a public agency that serves Alameda County and its 14 cities. We provide a range of services related to solid waste reduction, energy efficiency, and general environmental sustainability. And this webinar, we're really excited because it's actually a bit of a crossover between StopWaste's normal food waste reduction team and our green building team. So this is a little bit of a new format for us, but we're really excited about it. I also want to take the chance here to mention that StopWaste is hosting a whole series of events and workshops throughout this week in celebration of Earth Day. And you can find the full list at stopwaste.org/Earth Day. And we can also share that link in the comment or chat box. StopWaste is also the Alameda County representative of the Bay Area Regional Energy Network, or BayREN. BayREN is a collaboration of local governments from across the Bay Area that offers energy saving programs for everyone from single family homes to multifamily properties, small businesses, and more. And we'll provide some more detailed information later on about specifically what BayREN's single family program offers. It's called Home Plus. But the main goal of it is to get homeowners to make their homes more energy efficient and reduce the amount of energy that you're using to heat and cool your home. The combustion of natural gas in homes for home heating, water heating, and cooking is one of the single largest contributors to climate change in California. And so taking measures to reduce the amount of natural gas that your home uses through either weatherization and efficiency measures, or by completely eliminating gas altogether and going electric, is one of the most significant ways that you can really reduce your carbon footprint. Energy efficiency and electrification also lower your energy bill, improve indoor air quality, and make your home much more comfortable all year round. And as it relates to cooking appliances, which is really what we will be focusing on today, I want to just pause for a moment and read a few stats from the Rocky Mountain Institute about home health and indoor air quality. Gas stoves produce a really wide range of harmful byproducts, such as carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, and formaldehyde, that can cause or worsen respiratory issues. And so some really striking stats are that children in a home with a gas stove are 24 to 42% more likely to develop asthma than children in homes without a gas stove. And for children that do have asthma, they've run studies that after the house completes a comprehensive energy, health, and safety retrofit program to, add insulation, do some air sealing, get rid of the really polluting gas appliances, hospital admissions fell by nearly 85% and emergency room visits by 68% a year after the upgrade. So this is about a lot more than just solving climate change. And when we call the event Healthy Cooking, we aren't just referring to the ingredients that you're cooking with, but actually to the way you're cooking as well, and how important that is to your health. However, I also don't want to ignore the massive issue of food waste. That's half the reason that we're here as well. Food waste is the #1 category of waste that is ending up in landfills in Alameda County, and reducing food waste is one of the leading solutions to climate change. It's something that we can all do right now at home without any new technology or buying a thing. If anything, it'll actually save you money in the long run if you learn how to waste less food. When we waste food, we're not just wasting the food, but we're wasting all of the energy, the water, and the resources that went into producing that food and to getting it into our kitchens. So if we've learned anything recently, it's that individual actions make a difference locally and globally. And right now is the perfect time to take climate action in your kitchen to save food, resources, time, and money. So this is really a win-win-win. And hopefully through the presentation today, you can get some tips on how to reduce food in your own home. Excuse me. With that, I will turn it over to our chefs, Rachelle and Alison. So why don't you take it away?
Sure. Well, I'll do a quick introduction of myself. And one of the best things about this work, besides the food, besides that it's very adventurous, is the people I get to meet. This is really amazing. So, and the people I get to learn from. So it's a pleasure. I am definitely an electric kitchen super fan. I've been a private chef. I was restaurant chef for several years. I've been a private chef for many years for some pretty amazing people I cannot tell. And then also, I've been a corporate chef in the appliance industry. So I always say I live between the appliance and the human, and I call myself an appliance whisperer. Well, at least 10 years ago, I fell so in love with induction cooking. And then when Berkeley started the ordinances about a year and a half ago, I knew I had found my moment. I really will show you some things, reasons why I absolutely love it. And then I get to cook with one of my new great friends, and we'll share information back and forth and learn from each other. So I'm here in the Electric Kitchen Workshop in San Francisco at Monarch Premium Appliance, built just for this reason, because we believe in and love electric kitchens. So I'll kick it back to you, Allison, and we'll have a really good time today.
Thanks, Rachelle. I'm so happy to be here with you. I am in a home kitchen and I'm also excited to learn about induction. I am a food waste advocate, or I guess a reducing food waste advocate, but a lot like Rachelle, I was a personal chef for a long time. I cooked for thousands of people around the Bay Area. I had a meal delivery service for a while and did a lot of catering. And over the decade or so where I was actually cooking for folks, reducing food waste for me just started as a way to keep my business afloat. It was a financial decision. Just as a bootstrapped business, you can't be wasting food. We have such thin margins in the food industry. But also after being in the culinary industry for over a decade, at the time, I started to feel like I could do more. I wanted to have a bigger impact. The world was changing, and it started becoming really clear that, as Chris said, food and how we treat it and where it comes from and the resources that go into it are really on the precipice of affecting how our climate is changing. And I love helping motivate people to reduce their food waste because it's something we can all start with right now. I say all the time, you can start now or tomorrow morning when you look at that banana in your fruit bowl and you decide whether or not to eat it. You know it's going to go bad in 2 days. You paid for it. It's sitting there. All you have to do is eat it. And technically you've taken an action to help our planet be a better place. And it's such an easy starter toehold into living more sustainably that it's a great, great place to get started. And I think once we flex that muscle, you can build on it from there. So what I do for work now is a company called Ends and Stems, and I help people decide which recipes to cook, figure out how to fit recipes together like a puzzle so that you can buy, say, a bunch of radishes and use both the greens and the radish. But I do the legwork for people. It's a monthly subscription service to really help you put those recipes together. But I also do just a lot of advocacy and tutorials and things on my Instagram page as well. So I'm going to let Rachelle take us into specifically about induction cooking. I'm going to get prepping on some of my vegetables here, and then she'll come back and we'll start cooking together in a couple of minutes.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. I'm excited for it. So, and I want to thank everybody for coming. It's still kind of beautiful and sunny outside, so we are honored that you will be here with us. I want to talk briefly about induction. We'll keep it short and sweet because we're going to, jump into more questions as we and ideas as we cook. But I want to show you a couple things really quickly. So basically, what this is this is a cooktop. So I'm going to turn it on. The water is cold. This is an induction cooktop, and I'm going to give you a very simple science of how this works. But there are big whole ranges where it's the oven and the cooktop together. There are big range tops. This is a cooktop. So you can get a cooktop in gas, electric, induction, and we're going to show you a little bit. So what induction is not. It is not this. It is not this old school coils. It's not what's called radiant electric. So it is really it is very, very different in terms of how you cook. So I want to decouple the idea of old inductive or old electric to new, because that's where it gets brought down. People think it's that. So you know that the coils and that resistance electric are just terrible. They're not controllable. They're super hot, terrible to clean. So then yes, when you have that, gas certainly is a little bit better than that. But the whole myth about gas being stronger, faster, more powerful, we are going to bust that, because this water is just about ready to boil. It's incredible. We are also going to talk quite a bit about air quality and ventilation, because it's still very relevant. However, you don't need the same type of almost restaurant style hoods to get incredible air quality in your home when you're cooking, even with this much power. So I'll put on a little ventilation here. I'll just boil up some noodles here, but the power is remarkable. And then what I'll do is I'm going to also turn this off. So you'll see, as soon as I turn it off, you get almost instant off. So you're going to have one thing that is not a myth, one thing that is very true, is there is a learning curve. But boy, I mean, what a cool thing to learn. When you can boil water twice as fast, think how that's going to help. Talk about food waste. You don't waste your time making the food, right? And then instead of having to move the pan away, you get incredible control on and off. And then you also get such precision when you use either knobs or the slide screen. There's a lot of different interfaces. So for me, when I'm frying and I'm on gas and or making pancakes and I'm trying to look down and see and turn it up and down, those days are gone. For me, I know what these numbers equate to. So if I'm frying something, I can get the oil to a perfect temperature and keep it there. So when I use gas now, even the highest BTUs, the fanciest kind of ranges, it's a step down for me. Absolutely, from control, from all kinds of things. And then when we show you, as Alison cooks along, we're going to learn from her the things she discovered. And we'll definitely talk about different traditional types of foods. We're going to talk about cookware. There's a lot of things we'll cover. And then definitely at the end, as Chris said, get into resources. So what induction is, and we'll show you this quick science of it. Instead of this getting really hot and inefficiently trying to heat up the air and the pan and the handles and everything around it, what induction does is there's a copper coil underneath here. It sends out a very low magnetic wave, very safe magnetic wave that creates a connection in the pan. So the pan molecules move, it creates friction, and it creates direct heat. So when you're cooking, and Alison and I will talk about this, there's just so many safety features along with the speed, the power, and the control. Really great stuff. So just a simple little bit about induction. I've been doing induction cooking for probably about 15 years, and I still am flabbergasted at how it works every single time. So we'll keep going on it, but I hope that gave you a little bit of information. We're going to go back to the other kitchen and start learning about a beautiful stir-fried dish. So back to you, Alison. I want to visit you in your kitchen.
All right. So a quick story first. I'm here in my parents' kitchen, actually, and it was the first time I've seen them since 2019, really, after COVID and everything. And I was so happy to come home and cook dinner for everybody. And the other night I got my induction hob. So I just have the sort of after countertop market on top of my stove, and it's plugged in. So everybody's asking questions and they're like, wait, what is it? I don't understand. How does it work? And all of the myths and questions like, do any of my pots and pans work on it? Or where do I need to put this? Does it need to go under the fan? How is it even heating up? What is happening? And I was making polenta.
Yes.
Which is basically just, boiled water is the first step. everybody was crowding around and just amazed. I told them to go relax, but everybody was so amazed at how fast the water boiled. And
Right?
so it was sort of it was my test of the induction as well. I have not had a lot of opportunity to work on them. I'm a renter. I've always had the ubiquitous, 1970s gas stove in San Francisco. And so except for an occasional maybe Airbnb here or there, or way back in culinary school, I have not had a lot of opportunity to cook on them. But now I have this one, and I'm definitely going to be keeping it on my countertop. It was super easy to clean. It was fun to work with. But I agree. I'm excited to do a stir fry in it today because when you're cooking a stir fry, you want to prep everything and have it ready to go, but it really is about heat and going hot and fast. So I think it's a perfect dish to demo on the induction cooktop here today. So
Absolutely. And you're not alone, Alison. You and I get to work with people at the highest levels of environmental science, of so many aspects, builders and leaders like Chris and the team over there in Bayren. But yet, despite how far-reaching everybody is in this group and how much they do, it's really rare that people have had the chance to cook on induction. So I have a job forever, but you're not alone. And it's really exciting when you take a person that already has that green mindset and show them an even better way.
Yeah. And I think that just the look of it, because it does sort of resemble those glass cooktops that, anyone who sort of dabbles in being a foodie or anything, it just kind of has a negative reaction to the way that it looks, not understanding that the science behind it is totally different.
Absolutely.
So switching to prep here for a minute, we are going to cook this stir fry, and I have sort of categories in my mind. When you read on any of the statistics of food and which foods are in the landfill and why they're in the landfill, what makes food loss versus food waste versus edible food waste and non-edible food waste, I sort of have my own categories in my mind that I tell home cooks of, I guess we could call them beginner, advanced, intermediate, and advanced,
Right.
because as I'm shucking like snow peas here, these are the strings of the snow peas. These don't really taste good like this, but you can use them to make things that taste good. But that's pretty advanced, as opposed to somebody in their house who's, let's say, prepping a bell pepper and you only need half of it for tonight, and you put this back in your produce drawer. And then 4 days later, this starts getting slimy. And then 7 days later, it's got things growing on it and it looks like trash, so you throw it away. This to me is super preventable beginner food waste. This is what I am mostly talking about. Not, how can you turn these peas into an infused cream to, maybe make a beurre blanc for your salmon. That's like next level geeking out on using really all of the scraps and things. And then there are things in the middle, maybe mushroom stems, right? So most of the time, a lot of recipes call for you to split these apart, but really learning, do we need to split this apart? When is this tasty? When is it not tasty? And if we do split it apart, what are some ways we can still save it and actually eat those bits? Something like a radish, where, I bought these at the grocery store, and you can see these really aren't that pretty. But if you're able to go to your local farmer's market and you bring home radishes, they're usually beautiful on top and they're super tasty. So we want to factor that in. This is like beginner level, because it's clearly edible food. So I separate those things out a little bit, just so you know that it's not, you don't have to be perfect from day one, basically, when you're thinking about food waste. You're ahead of the game if you're already thinking about it. So I've talked to thousands of people about what they waste at home. We had some things in the chat. We started with really common things. Everybody seems to be saying, I added lettuce in there. It's always one of the things that goes to waste for me. Spinach, greens, herbs, things that just don't really last that long. So what I have done is really help people go back to the beginning of it. So when I'm already standing here with food in front of me, I've got all these delicious greens, we're gonna make this dish. This is really the second step. The first step is when I went to the grocery store to buy all of this food. So some things like berries usually comes up a lot. Sometimes maybe dairy or things that don't have a long shelf life. Lettuce for sure. The way to reduce that food waste is really to buy less. I think it's, we used to say, what was it? Reuse, recycle, reduce, reuse, recycle. And then we've added refuse to the beginning of it. Mm-hmm. So the easiest way to reduce your food waste, the first step, and save money in the process, is really to refuse. And how that translates to cooking at home is to buy less at the grocery store. So this is where what I do for a living comes in, which is to help people write a meal plan. So a lot of times we come home and you're looking in the fridge and it's fun playing Chopped and trying to figure out what to cook for dinner that night. Right. But if you can actually take a moment, even if it's very simple, people ask me all the time what my favorite meal planning tool is. Mm-hmm. And the honest answer is just a piece of scratch paper and a pen. Because it doesn't need to really be that big of a deal. It's just jotting down your intention, what you'll cook for dinner this week, and then making sure that you prepare a grocery list before you go shopping. Prepare that grocery list in your kitchen so that you can actually open the cabinets and check and see, do I really need to buy that this week? Could I maybe buy it next week? And getting a realistic sense of what you will go through each week so that you can refuse to bring more than you need into your house. That is the easiest step, and it is the opposite of free. It will actually leave you more money in your bank account. So it's definitely the place to start. So that said, while we're cooking, there are obviously different steps that we can take. So I'm going to get started here so we can turn on this induction burner. The sauce that I'm going to make today is a mason jar shake sauce. So it's first stir fry. It's super fun. I actually first started, and I'm just chopping up some garlic here, just mincing it. And I did peel the garlic. You can use the peels of your garlic in a stock. So as I'm cooking, I usually have like an extra bowl and I just put the extra bits into there. And that's actually my secret trick for the peas as well, especially, if spring peas are in season, that means the things that I would end up cooking with my vegetable stock are also probably spring things. So maybe that's a risotto or, maybe it goes into a braise of chicken legs or whatnot. So you can definitely add the spring vegetables in there to kind of tie the dish back together. Anyway, so I'm mincing up my garlic here. I started making this sauce originally during a kids cooking class. Yes. It's really fun because kids, this is just a great first recipe for kids. And even I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. This is a super fun one for them to make as well, because you do everything in a jar and you just shake it up. But what I was surprised is how much the parents really love this recipe as well. And one of the reasons is that you can make the sauce in a double or even a triple batch, and it lasts in your refrigerator for a really long time. So I feel like my job in recipe creation and, helping people decide what to cook on a, random Wednesday evening, it's really not to reinvent the wheel, but it's to make their lives easier. And when I ask people why they think they waste food, or if I really even have followed people in their kitchen to see why things get wasted on an average night, and a lot of it comes back to running out of time. You didn't have the time to plan. You didn't know what your plan was. You didn't have everything you needed to cook a certain recipe. So if you do a little bit of that planning in advance and you couple that with really simple, doable recipes that you feel like you can just nail on a weeknight, you'll be able to cook more, and you'll also be able to reduce your waste a little bit more. So I'm on to my ginger here. Ginger, let's see, you can see this piece is really tender. It's thin skinned. So if you buy small bits of fresh ginger for something like this, you really don't even need to bother peeling it. If it looks dry or really gnarly to the touch, you could take the spoon, the old spoon trick where you just, let's get a real close up. Oh, now I'm spraying my computer with ginger juice. You can see how juicy it is because it's spraying out. And then same things with these stems, or not stems, but skins, you can save this for your stock. So I'm just keeping a pile as I go, but this piece of ginger really, this type doesn't need to be peeled. So I'm going to skip that step and not generating that waste as well. So I've got my ginger, I've got my garlic going into my container here. And then, so since this is a stir fry, I want to get everything ready before I turn on the induction, especially since it goes so fast. So to this, I'm going to add a little bit of soy sauce. I use tamari, which I like the taste of, but It doesn't really matter that much. Tamari is a wheat-free soy sauce. It's pretty much interchangeable. Unless you're gluten-free, then you definitely want tamari. I have a little bit of rice vinegar. And I have measurements for these, but I've made this so many times. This is a little bit of honey. I switch back and forth between honey or brown sugar. If you're really worried about sugar, you could certainly omit it. But especially in a lot of Asian cooking, it's really a balance of sweet, tangy, savory, umami. So I feel like it's really worth it to put the sugar in there. And then this is a cornstarch thickened sauce, which is also why it's going to be really fun to watch on the induction, because cornstarch thickens in liquid as soon as it boils. So I'm going to add a little cornstarch in there, and then water or stock. So I keep mentioning stock, and a lot of times new cooks or beginner cooks ask me, what do you do with stock? Once we save all these scraps and peels, what do we do with stock? So this is a great use for a little bit of stock, you know, aside from soups or risottos or things. But it really does go into a lot of sauces. And it's one of the things that's really different about restaurant cooking versus home cooking. In the restaurant, I can't even imagine they could get through a day without stock. It goes into so many different dishes. But at home, I think home cooks aren't quite as attuned to it. Okay. So close the lid, shake it up. This is where the kids come in. Super easy. It's kind of cloudy, and you'll see it thickens up and it gets really brown and velvety once we cook. So I'm going to set this aside, and that's it. I'm going to keep the lid on because we'll shake it one more time right before we use it. And I'm going to get the rest of my prep ready to go here. So on my bell pepper, I am taking out the seeds in the middle. I don't put bell pepper in my stock. Do you, Rachelle, or is that one thing that you omit?
No, I don't. Same.
I've been trying to come up with a good method to let people know what can be used in stock and what is not good in stock. And honestly, if you're new to it or really just getting started, the easiest thing is to just Google it and see. I've found it to be pretty accurate, because another thing that is average or you want to watch in stock, I'm also going to use, which is asparagus. So if you're making asparagus soup, you can use the ends, but it can easily get bitter or overpowering if you put your asparagus in stock. But I don't know. How do you know that? You sort of just have to know what goes well in it and what doesn't. And one that's my favorite to put in stock are these mushroom stems. So if you do peel the mushroom stems off, this to me is like stock gold right here. Some chefs, depending on what dish they want to make later, will say not to put the mushroom stems in there because it does give you a darker colored stock. So instead of ending up like a very golden color, it could be a darker brown. But for the vast majority of things I make at home, that doesn't bother me. And I'm super happy to have the flavor of the mushrooms because they do give a really great flavor. So on my asparagus here, since it's springtime, you see these people on TV doing this thing where they snap their asparagus. Well, that one is proving me wrong here, but you see them do this. I've seen, can't remember, like a TV chef doing this and snapping it, but sometimes it snaps way up here and it's really way more than you need to take off the bottom of the asparagus. So it's much better to actually just, you can kind of feel it, and it will be really hard. And then you can feel where it softens up, and then you can just snap it there or slice it with a knife. And if you're still worried about that end being a little too rough, you can just either peel it with a paring knife or use a vegetable peeler. Really, most of the stalk is okay to use. And then I'm going to stack them up and then just slice them on an angle here up to the top. Another trick about stir frying is that the little edges, like you can see my, what is that, a triangular shaped pepper, and I cut the asparagus with angles. When you stir fry something, the more angles it has, the more chance it has to sort of char on the heat and pick up flavor and looks interesting. So the one place you really don't want perfect cuts is in stir fry. It's much more fun to have imperfect looking shapes. Okay, so here are my mushrooms I keep referring to. When you buy a fresh mushroom, let's see if we can get the picture. It'll be all closed up around the bottom here. And the bottom of this stem is actually very soft. It's just as soft as the mushroom itself. So this is a perfect candidate for leaving the stem on and just eating it. I mean, everything kind of comes back to planning how you can use all the bits as you cook, but also for every mushroom stem that I don't have to take off and separate, it's again saving time and reducing food waste because I'm just going to eat it. So the difference, if you take it off or not and then slice it, you get these sort of slices and then these almost like cartoon pizza topped mushrooms over here. And I'm going to just go with these. These mushrooms are really fresh and nice. I don't have an old mushroom for you to look at, but if you were to find an older mushroom where the area, sort of like the soft skirt around connecting the top from the stem, if you found one where that's separated or dried out, or you can visibly see or feel that the mushroom is sort of dry or cracking, that would be a good one to knock off and you put it into your stock bowl. So even from this dish, as you can see, I'm starting to get a pretty big stockpile. You like that one? I didn't even have that planned. I've never even done that before, I promise. What I do with these, I don't make stock every night, right? But this is the easiest thing to do with these scraps. So I just put them in a Tupperware in the freezer. And I also eat meat. I'm not a vegetarian. So then I'll just wait until maybe I have some chicken bones or even a pork bone if I want to make that kind of stock, or maybe I just want a vegetable one and I have that pile ready to go. And then I do it on a Sunday afternoon or in the evening when there's no pressure. I know I'm not going anywhere and it sort of just easily fits into the day without, it's not like something I'm going to do on a random Tuesday night. Okay, so then I have my peas. These are ready to go. I have a beautiful pile of snow peas. Peas, since it's spring season, let's talk about spring vegetables. So this little end over here, you can see it's soft. This is how it hung on the vine. So this little bottom part, you don't have to worry about at all. And it's this part. Let's see if I can get a super close up of the pea. You can see where it's like woody. And then look at the shape of it. So it's flatter along the top and then sort of boat shaped on the bottom. So this is the string you want to remove. And you can do it just by snapping it and then peeling it back. And then that's how you get this piece. Sometimes I don't do it. I would always do it if somebody was paying me to cook for them because it is the correct way to do it and it will be stringy. But do I sit here and string a pound of string peas for my husband and my 6-year-old? Absolutely not. If I need to cook this and I want to eat peas, they can deal with pulling the string out, or maybe they'll just eat it. We'll call it fiber. It's totally fine. But technically the correct thing to do, if you're serving anybody you want to impress, is you want to go through each of the peas and snap it off. So all right, and then my last one are these radishes, and then we're going to turn this on. So I am going to try to save some of these radish greens. So I did wash them. Any ones that don't have any holes in them or any gross looking spots, these are all pretty much good to go. And I'm going to snap it just above. I don't like the way this tastes. And I think we're already doing so well to really maximize what we have. I'm going to be okay with, I'll show you. I'm going to be okay with throwing that little bit away. And then the little bottom end, you can either peel off the roots if they're coming out or just kind of knock that off a little bit. I really like cooked radishes and I also really like raw radishes. So we're going to kind of hit this one with radish. I'm going to cut these into quarters and maybe I'll do, 2 or 3 of these cut into quarters. And then I'll save one radish. And then I'll do it like you would expect on a salad where it's raw on top.
And I want to make sure, because we just have about 10 minutes left for the cooking and to kind of talk a little bit more about the induction.
Okay.
So I think we're about ready for the cooking part, right? So I wanted
I've got mine on.
Pardon?
I'm turning it on right now.
Awesome. And as you're doing that, just briefly, we did, you mentioned that it's a plug-in hob. And as opposed to calling it a burner, which you can, but you did say it's a hob, induction is generally called a hob. So this individual area is a hob and what you have is. And one of the things that is difficult, and this is true and part of that learning curve, is learning the different interfaces. Basically gas, you turn it on and it's pretty obvious. It really hasn't changed much in a long time. But, getting to learn how those slides work or if it's a knob. So that's definitely an important piece. And then Alison, you made a really good point.
I'll show you mine.
Pardon?
Mine has temperature. It says heating, temperature, timer, and function. So actually, this did throw me off the first time I looked at it because it actually gives me a temperature rather than high, medium, or low, like I would expect from my gas burner. So I just visibly felt for it the first time I turned it on, but I admit I was kind of looking at that and I was not expecting that or used to it.
Absolutely. But once you get used to temperatures, which many of them have, then when you go back to using gas, when you go back to using gas, it's like using an oven that has no temperature dial. I'm like, I don't know what temperature this is. So
well, you made a great point about frying or keeping something at the correct temperature. It's a lot more consistent and you actually have some insight into it as opposed to just guessing.
Cool. As you got that cranking up. That's perfect. And what kind of pan do you have there?
I have an all-clad pan. And I love the shape of this pan. And this was one, when I was talking to my family about bringing this in too, like I said, the big myth was that they were going to have to go out and buy all new pans. And this pan is fantastic. Absolutely already owned it. Nobody had to go and buy anything. And it was ready to go. I think maybe the one thing we came up with as I was looking was like this old sort of tin teapot, I think is maybe the only type that I could find around here that wasn't ready to work on the induction. But cast iron works, correct?
Yeah, cast iron. And you thank you for proving one of the most important points is like you don't need to change all your cookware. If a magnet sticks to it, it's really good. And you picked out a perfect pan. One myth that is true or is partially true is that if you have a big round bottom wok, that is true. It's going to wobble around on here. I have this big, giant, legit wok from Chinatown here in San Francisco. And one thing that is different with induction is you don't get all this extra heat up the sides of the pan. For some dishes, that extra heat is important for wok cooking.
Yeah, like I can touch this.
Get a bigger flat bottom pan, and or there are wok hobs that have a big kind of bowl in them, and you set it in, and you can crank on that. This guy gets so hot and I can stir fry so fast that I actually have to back it off. So it's really amazing. But yes, sometimes there are little adaptations you have to make. So cook away, tell us what you're doing there. And I'm so glad you tried it out.
I think you can see how fast it's going. I mean, mushrooms usually take a little while, but they're already browned on the edges. And it's just so well suited to stir fry as well, because you really do want to go really hot and fast with stir fry, which is why I took so much time chopping everything up before we got started as well.
Beautiful.
So when you stir fry also, you want to do things in order of how long they take to cook. So I let my mushrooms and my peppers go first. And now I can smell this. It smells amazing. And you'll notice I just did a little bit of oil in there, but I haven't put in any of the sauce yet. You could do a tiny pinch of salt at this point, but keep it really light because we're gonna add soy sauce. So you don't wanna go too salty right now. So I'm gonna let these radishes get a little bit. And then next up, we're gonna do, if you had onions, I usually really like onions in a stir fry too, but I'm not doing those today. And what's so great about this is it's such a super fast meal and you can really clean out your fridge. You can use any bits. I talk a lot about getting kids to try new vegetables. You can make sure that there's one or two in here that they love and it would be really accessible. And look at this. You can see the beautiful golden edges on there and it looks so springy. And then I'm gonna add my peas second to last. Actually, last is going to be the radish tops.
Nice. So
I chiffonaded the radish tops just like you would maybe a kale or a chard. And this is sort of our, 2-for-1. You pay for the radishes, but you get these awesome tops and they really taste great. Nice. And especially if you're in any of your local farmers markets, they taste really great. Okay, I'm gonna put you down for a second. So I'm back to my sauce. everything is looking really bright here. I like my vegetables to get bright and be cooked through, but not overdone.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shake my sauce up again. Now remember, the cornstarch thickens when it comes to a boil.
Right.
And you'll see, I'm gonna pick you up so you can see.
Good. And you did the perfect thing, having your everything all prepped. That is a learning curve part where you really, if you're used to cranking up your gas and then starting your prep, you do need to sort of think about how that happens, because this thing will get hot so fast. So you were all ready to go before you started cooking.
You can see that it seized up and it turned from sort of cloudy to glazy.
Nice.
And do even a little tiny bit more. It thickens as soon as it boils. And the bottom of that pan was so hot, it boiled almost instantaneously.
Yep.
And now you can see the veggies are all super shiny and gorgeous. And that's it. I mean,
I love it.
it's that easy. Sometimes I would put an egg in here.
Yes. That looks beautiful. And I wanted to point out, it is important for indoor air quality. If you have a hob, it's a little tricky, because if you plug it in, you really want it to be as close to your ventilation as possible, because you are not kicking out the same noxious fumes and noxious gas that Chris was talking about. But you are still, when you cook, you get a lot of moisture and you do get some particulate matter. Now with induction, you get so much less particulate, because all your extra grease that's coming over here is not getting flamed up and becoming airborne, right? Because 70% or more of the heat goes into the pan instead of 70% of the heat coming into the air and into the room that happens with gas. You can also touch your handles. No, this is so hot, but the handles stay really safe. So it's much safer, but you definitely want to use ventilation. But when you can turn your ventilation on quietly instead of really loud, and know that that is more than enough to keep your air clean, that's huge. And it is a little tricky. If you do put your hob on top of your gas burner, I suggest that you take the knobs off of your burner, or you may just cook your favorite hob.
Yikes.
How do I know that? I did it. I cooked the bottom of my favorite induction hob, and I was mortified, because I, of course, had it on my cooktop. We are in the process of changing out our kitchen. We are renters as well. And so we are going to be clients of Bayren, and Chris is going to talk about that.
That's awesome.
But any last takeaways from the cooking? And I know we want to turn it over, and Chris will tell us about resources, and then Q&A, of course.
Yeah.
That looks delicious, by the way.
I have a glass cooktop here, so I just put it right on top of it, and it's fantastic. You almost can't even tell that it's a separate piece. So this isn't my house, but I would leave it there. So here's a final dish.
Nice.
You can see that cornstarch in the sauce just thickened it. It made it so super glazy and nice. And honestly, I looked at the clock when you said, let's get going, and it took 3 minutes to cook this entire thing. And I was chopping really very slow. I think you could chop at home if you're not blabbering on at the same time. So between the speediness of the induction, but then also just, you know, having a plan, having all of my vegetables ready to go. It's a super fast dish. I would eat variations on this all the time. And then, like I said, I have sauce left over. So the next time I don't even need to bother putting the sauce together. And this is one of my ultimate tricks for a speedier weeknight, is just to have some components of it ready to go, so that every night you're not starting from scratch, but you help yourself out by making your own shortcuts. So,
and then cleanup is a dream. This is how you do it, like this. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we want to kick it over to Chris. That looks so beautiful. Chris, talk to us about these resources, and then you can guide the Q&A. I am so happy to learn from you, Alison. It's really wonderful.
And you as well.
Great, thank you so much. That was awesome. So let me remove your pins here so I can share my screen. All right, yeah, well, thank you again. I even learned a lot, and I've already, seen some of these webinars, so
Good.
that was great. But we want to quickly go over a few resources. If you are now excited about induction, want to give it a shot, we have some resources for that. So hopefully, Rachelle, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Yep, great. So I mentioned the Bay Run Home Plus program. That is our single family rebate program that it's available to single family homeowners in all 9 counties that make up the Bay Area. And the Home Plus program, we offer up to $5,000 in rebates for energy efficiency upgrades. This includes everything from weatherization. So that would include attic and wall insulation, air sealing, duct repair, duct replacement, as well as your furnace, air conditioning system, water heater, and some other appliances, including induction. So we actually just introduced the induction rebate last year. It's $300, which again, induction does cost a little bit more upfront. So expect that it'll cost a little bit more, but the $300 rebate really does help it to come back more in line with what you would expect to pay for a standard gas range.
Okay.
And Bay Run does also offer through the Home Plus program a no-cost home energy advisor service. I'll talk a little bit more about that. A network of trained contractors that are vetted and are really knowledgeable about energy efficiency. And you can also get a free energy efficiency kit if you fill out a survey online. That'll include things like LED light bulbs, smart power strips, low flow shower heads, things like that.
Nice.
So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We'll send out the slides. You can look over these instructions more carefully later on. But it's a pretty simple process for switching to induction and getting that rebate. This is one of the few measures that you actually don't need to go through a participating contractor. You can do this all on your own. You just need to make an account on our website. Make sure that the model you want is eligible. You do have to replace an existing gas appliance. The rebate is not available if you're going from electric to induction, unfortunately. So just confirm your eligibility, and then you would have to, once you install it, upload a picture of the old appliance, a picture of the new appliance, and then upload any receipts and other upgrades that you had to make. And then we'll send the rebate over the mail. And I do also just want to talk about one other thing. If you're not quite ready to do one of the bigger retrofits, but you do want to see, what you can do to make your home more energy efficient, we have a really great service. It's called Home Energy Advisor. It's a third-party, unbiased, independent service that you can call for free. It's a call line, and they can help you from anything from just giving you the big picture scope of what your home improvement project might look like. They can help you find contractors, compare quotes from contractors, answer any technical questions, comparing specific models. And they can also refer you out if there's any other complementary programs that you might be able to apply for. So I would highly encourage you to take advantage of this. Again, it's totally free. They don't earn a commission. It's really just there for you. So you can call this number or send them an email. We'll also have a survey that will open as soon as you close this meeting. And so you can give us your phone number or email, and we can have one of them just reach out to you. So with that, Maricel, if you want to cover a little bit about some other resources we have to help you get tips for reducing food waste.
Sure, thank you. And I also just want to say, to remind you all who are still on right now to please put any questions that you have. That was a great presentation from both Chef Alison and Chef Rachelle. And if you have any lingering questions, please put them into the chat or the Q&A. We'll have a little bit of time after this just to ask them a few. But I did want to also share some of our resources from StopWaste to reduce wasted food. Chris mentioned that this is a big initiative of ours at StopWaste. So we want to make sure to lead you to our campaign website, which is actually stopfoodwaste.org. You see that at the top there. And again, these slides will go out, so you'll have a link there. But we do have tools there, including a fruit and veggie storage guide that's been really popular and just helpful to make sure that you actually can keep the products and produce that you bring into your house fresher longer. We have a shopping list. We have, again, storage tips specifically for things like berries and that lettuce, ways to revive them as well. Recipes, a blog with special contributors like Chef Alison from Ends and Stems, and another community partner of ours, which is Food Shift based in Alameda. And then we also have some great videos there. So please do visit us at stopfoodwaste.org. and also please follow our chef partners to get some great tips from them as well. And we just are launching actually a new blog newsletter. So again, with that great content we're getting from the community, from our chef partnerships and from community groups, we're hoping to get a newsletter out quarterly. So we won't flood your email box, but we would love for you all to be able to receive some of that content regularly in your emails. Awesome. So I think if we want to stop sharing and actually bring it to some questions, I think we've got a couple that came in during the cooking demo. And then another one that just came up right now. So I think I would love to, if we can bring Chef Rachelle and Chef Alison back to answer just a few questions. Again, we've got about 6 minutes or so here. We'd love to end with you all, just providing us with some more knowledge. So I know one of the questions that came up earlier, Chef Rachelle, was actually about, and I'm curious about this as well, but about charring vegetables. Chef Alison showed us an awesome char like in the pan with that stir fry, but is that possible to do? Something like with the red bell pepper that she had? Is there something that you can do there?
Yeah, it actually is. No, it really is. So what you can do is, and it's the same with like chapatis, or if you're doing tortillas where you really want to get a nice color to it. Cast iron pans get screaming hot on this. I mean, really. So you can beautifully char a pepper right in the pan by having it be, touch that. I will often, instead of putting it on whole, I'll sometimes cut it in half and let the two sides char like that. But also I think one of the parts about electric kitchens is that we sometimes forget that everything in our kitchen is electric, except maybe one thing. So you really want to think about your broiler, your oven, your speed oven, your steam oven, and all the things you can do inside those amazing appliances. So I do a lot of charring right in the broiler. So it's amazing. It's definitely not able to do it right on the cooktop, or you can char outside, but in a pan, it works beautifully.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that's great. Yeah, I forgot about the cast irons. Another great question. So for Chef Alison, one that came up was, how long do like stir fry leftovers last in the fridge? And in general, maybe if you have any like top tips for leftovers.
Yeah, that's great. So the health department would tell you that anything cooked lasts for 7 days. So without even thinking about it, you're good to go for 7 days. That's the law in a restaurant. So I just follow that at home if it's something that you've prepared. I can't answer this question without talking about things that you buy and expiration dates and whether things are expired or not. And it's important to know that from a food like safety and food waste perspective, use by, best by, sell by, eat by, freeze by, take home by, none of those dates are actually related to food safety, with the sole exception of infant formula. Those are all for the merchandisers and the producers so that they can batch things and they know where to hone our senses again. So anything that has, something funny growing on it, anything that smells different, anything bubbly. They always say with cans, if they're like dented or out of shape, then you might want to be aware. But really it's all about our senses and paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Most things last longer than we think.
Yes.
Great. Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think back to you, Chef Rachelle, I also have a couple of really young kids, and a question came in about how quickly the induction cooktop actually cools down after you finish using it.
Yeah, the safety is absolutely remarkable. First of all, just to turn it on, you usually have to turn it on and then select a location and then turn that on. And you need a pot, an induction pot on there. So the safety is through the charts, off the charts in that way. We actually cover this with a big cloth and we can turn it into a bar. It's a really usable space. But from the heat point, I actually should have shown you that. Right after I boil the water, if it hasn't been on for a long time, I can actually touch it like this. After a while, that heat from the pan does begin to heat the surface up more. So there'll be a little heat indicator light usually that shows me that there's residual heat. But even if I had a pot of stock here for several hours, if I took it off, within a few minutes, it's cooled down, and you just cannot ever get the types of burns that you can get from the grates, the flame, the pots. That gas does. It's incredible. Not only that, but I don't get hot. I don't have to crank up the AC, my client's AC. It's amazing. So you're not only cooking twice as fast in a lot of ways, but you're not also having to cool down the inside of your home in, you know, in kind of a crazy circle, right? So really,
You can
really
see I can already put my hand on here. And it feels like if I were touching my cup of coffee right now, I would be headed to the microwave. It's warm, but it just feels sort of like a warm mug.
I also want to come in here, and we are answering some other questions in the chat. I'm not sure if everyone had a chance to see, but we got a question about the efficiency of induction compared to gas and electric coils. And induction are a lot more efficient. They're 80 to 90% more efficient, meaning 80% of the electricity that you're using is going directly into heating up the pan. Whereas with gas, you're burning the gas and most of that is going up and around, and only about 30 to 40% is actually going into the pan. So induction is already right off the bat in that way a lot more efficient. But like Rachelle was saying, it's actually even a lot more efficient than it sounds, because you're not having to turn on the AC. You don't need as strong of a ventilation system. And so it really adds up.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of hidden savings, and then just the chemicals, the effort, the time to clean up. Think about cleaning up those big grates. That sometimes takes a little bit of soap, a little bit of chemicals. You know, there's a lot of sort of hidden price to pay, which is like, I'll never go back to that.
So, well, thank you. I'm not sure if I don't see any other questions, and it looks like we're just right at 7 p.m. as well. So I just want to say thank you again so much to both of you, Chef Rachelle and Chef Alison, for this amazing cooking night and learning. I always learn so much from both of you for my own home. So we're grateful to you all. Thank you for joining us for our Earth Week presentations. I don't know if Chris, you want to say anything else, but we'll send out an email with these the slides, and we should probably make this video available as well at some point. So thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We're partners to the end, sister. Thank you.
Thanks again. Have a good night, everyone.